Sports on a Tuesday. Going to talk a lot of SEC football and SEC coaches' hot seats here on today's show. Will Muschamp out at South Carolina. Zach, I don't know if you saw this, but they're going to be paying Will Muschamp $270,000 per month for the next 49 months. That's 4 years and a month. That's insane. It's good money if you can get it. They're getting fired by an SEC football program. So Will Muschamp out. Two coaches I think should follow Will Muschamp out the door in the SEC this season. We will discuss those guys. We've got overall SEC coaching hot seats as well on the show that has four guys on the hot seat for us. We'll find out whose seat is the warmest here in November 2020. Then Hugh Freeze. He's a big name floating around as he's got Liberty undefeated heading into getting close to Thanksgiving for what Hugh Freeze has been able to do at Liberty over a couple years as their head coach. Would you want Hugh Freeze to coach your SEC football program? And Zach, I've got another offensive mind in the SEC that I think has turned a corner and who could and really should deserve to be on a short list for an SEC head coaching job in the near future. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. And then Tuesday, Takes Too Long trivia. Zach, we are above 72% as a team. So we've got 10 sports trivia questions at random that we will all do as a team. We need a third consecutive 8-2 week. I think we can get there. We're doing pretty good, but we got trivia to end this Tuesday show. So welcome in. Let's get this thing fired up.
Yeah, absolutely. Gonna have a good show. Make sure you share the show. I just shared it around on my Facebook page. You guys and retweeted it, so you guys can do the same. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Periscope, and hello, Twitch. Gonna have a good show today, talking about the SEC and coaches. It's been a strange year, but it's been a strange SEC and college football season. Let's dive into the repercussions of it because we have some good topics. We want your opinion. Before we get started, though, bottom right corner of your screen, if you're watching on Periscope/Twitter, you'll see those three little dots. Tap that bad boy and retweet the broadcast. We need to pop up in your Twitter followers timeline. That would help us distribute the show. Also on Facebook, bottom left corner of your screen, share now to public. That is share now to public. Boom, you're done. That's all you got to do. Then you can sit back, relax, interact, and enjoy the show. So a lot to dive into, Austin, ready to discuss some of these SEC coaches. Really, it's not even the good. It's more of the bad and the ugly.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get it going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at A to Z Sports. You look our Facebook page at A to Z Sports Nashville. We're Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, and we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time. Got to thank our sponsors because they make it all happen for our show, for our business, and for you guys. Renters Warehouse Nashville, the professional landlords in the Nashville area. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. Mandu, the pulse of fitness, where one 15-minute workout equals 5+ hours in the weight room. Mandu.com. Your first workout is free. The Tucker Agency, saving you on your personal insurance at TuckerTN.com. Calvin and Settle for your new hardwood floors and finishings at CalvinandSettle.com. And the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, boneandjointtn.org. So, Zach, we're talking SEC coaches. And once again, for our SEC audience who didn't watch yesterday, our respects to Will Muschamp.
It's time for Carolina football. So get the out of your seats. Spurs up.
Will Muschamp got out of his seat. He's gone. He is no longer the head coach of South Carolina football, and Gamecock fans, I think, are rejoicing because they lost, Zach, 14 of 20 of the last 20 games under Will Muschamp. It was not getting better after some promising seasons early in his tenure. He's making a boatload of money to not coach football. The second SEC program that's fired him. And Zach, do you think he deserved to be fired? And before we dive into our SEC coaching hot seats, what does this tell you about SEC programs willing to make moves like this during the pandemic?
Well, it tells you obviously that it doesn't matter, right? If you're bad enough, they will fire you. And, he just wasn't good enough. If you look at his record, 6-7, 9-4 with an Outback Bowl win, 7-6, 4-8, and then 2-5 this season before he got canned. That's not good enough. And South Carolina, you got to think about where they had been. They had been with Steve Spurrier, who the most Buffalo Bills stat ever is 3 straight 10+ win seasons, nothing to show for it.
Right.
But Steve Spurrier put Steven Garcia in the SEC championship game, right? So that was a big deal then. South Carolina fans, they knew that they were going to have to replace a legendary coach after he quit during the season. Mm-hmm. And it was time, and they had enough. They weren't getting any better. I think this is what I always think about coaching firings. When coaches get canned, and that's the industry, right? When you sign up for this and you say, hey, if you go to your significant other, your wife, you're like, look, I'm going to get into coaching. Well, she better saddle up because she's going to be moving. She's not going to see you a lot. You're going to be working long hours. There are things that come with the job. Now, on the other side of things, if you make it to Will Muschamp's level, you're going to get paid a lot of money. You're going to live in a big-ass house because you got millions of dollars. But the trade-off is you are going to probably get fired. And when that happens, this is usually when I say, is when the program or the athletic department or the university feels that their football team is, one, not getting better, not improving, or getting much, much worse. And right. I think for South Carolina, they were getting worse. They were not improving. So it was time, Corona or not. You got to make hard decisions in South Carolina. They want to win football games. And maybe they have a targeted head coach that we'll talk about later on in the show that they looked and said, look, this is maybe a guy we want instead of Muschamp.
Yeah, and now I looked at South Carolina firing Will Muschamp Sunday night as, okay, that's the first one to go. Because I do think in this pandemic, no athletic department, because I agree with everything you said about the pandemic and it doesn't matter, but it was who's going to wait to make the first big move like that, where everybody talks about Will Muschamp losing his job at South Carolina as the story rather than their school being the story for having the first big firing where they're paying the coach $12 million in total to not coach during a pandemic and all that to figure it out. So that's out of the way. I think this should make SEC programs and other Power 5 football programs more comfortable with getting rid of their coach either during the season or after the year. And I think Jim Harbaugh at Michigan would be a good option for that as well. But I also look at the two schools inside the state of Tennessee, Zach. I look at Tennessee, and Sean Gill says Muschamp was 2-5. Where's Pruitt again? Jeremy Pruitt should have been 2-5 this morning, but Texas A&M's COVID issues allowed that to be delayed to maybe this Saturday when they go to Auburn. Jeremy Pruitt has lost 4 in a row after winning 8 in a row to end last season and to start this season, and this football program looks like it's falling apart. And Vanderbilt, as Donald says, Vandy ain't paying the buyout. Vandy should move on from their head coach. I think Tennessee should move on from Jeremy Pruitt, and I wonder if the South Carolina firing of Will Muschamp will make them feel more comfortable in doing so, because it's about making the right move. I'd rather fire a coach during a pandemic too early than hang on to a coach 1 year too late, where that coach continues to ruin the program like Butch Jones did with his 2017 season and how he just lit it all on fire and left Jeremy Pruitt to sweep up a lot of coals, and knowing that Jeremy Pruitt was not experienced or good enough to do that.
Well, it's easy to spend other people's money, right?
Sure, of course.
So you saying that he should be fired? Look, I value your opinion, and you paid money to go to Tennessee and get your degree from there. And a lot of other thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people have done that throughout their life too, that are boosters, and they do have some sort of say in this. But I think it's going to be difficult for these two schools. I don't necessarily disagree with you, because as my criteria earlier in the show, as I said, what justifies it being time to move on from a coach? You're not getting any better or you're getting worse. Well, Vanderbilt is not getting any better, and they are getting worse.
Vandy's offense is getting better. Vandy's offense put up 35 on Kentucky's defense.
It's not, but that's not the game.
The problem, no, the game, that is the game, actually.
No, it's not. The game is to win games.
Okay.
And they're not doing that.
The game to win games is offense in the SEC in 2020. And
he
the
can't.
problem, and here's the issue, is because Derek Mason is what? A defensive coach. And somebody early on the show on Facebook had a great comment that I wanted to scroll back up to if I can find it. Ethan Ramsey says, some coaches are just meant to be coordinators. Cough, cough, Pruitt, cough, cough. Well, you can have Derek Mason be in the middle of those coughs too. I think Derek Mason has been in over his head at Vandy for several years as head coach, and he has not gotten better as a manager of a program. The offense is looking pretty good at Vanderbilt with their freshman quarterbacks, plural, that they've been able to score points with. But the defense that is Derek Mason's bread and butter and what's supposed to be his expertise is awful. And Tennessee's defense that's supposed to be Jeremy Pruitt's expertise is getting worse. Like, Jeremy Pruitt is a defensive backs coach by trade, and they have not been able to develop defensive backs outside of Nigel Warrior, who is a high-level recruit coming out of high school who's got Dale Carter pedigree. And Jeremy Pruitt can't do anything with Lawrence Taylor. Bryce Thompson looks like he's peaked. They can't cover a damn slant. Sean Schamberger is now focusing on academics the rest of the year. D'Angelo Gibbs, who was supposed to be a DB, is also focusing on academics this year. They're getting worse all over the place. And you can point the finger at the quarterback position. But, Zach, I was texting one of my buddies during the Arkansas game. I've been blinded by the quarterback position. Jeremy Pruitt can't get it done, and Tennessee needs to recognize that before he further sours and molds the program.
Well, you said that he's a defensive backs coach by trade. He's actually a defensive line coach by occupation.
Right.
He took over the defensive line coaching job earlier this season after he fired his. Tennessee has issues, but I understand why you said you were blinded maybe by the quarterback situation. The problem is that it is the quarterback situation. That is the one thing that has been holding you back, because if you get a good quarterback, a lot of things, life becomes a little bit easier for everybody. And that just hasn't happened. Yeah. So when you don't have a quarterback, what the quarterback situation this year for Tennessee has done, it's made everybody else's job more difficult. And we've seen that this team and this program is not adequate to handle said pressures. And that's why the results are the results. So to go back to our title of the show, as two SEC coaches who should follow Will Muschamp out the door, Austin, you said you believe that it should be Jeremy Pruitt should no longer be the coach of Tennessee, and Derek Mason should no longer be the coach of Vanderbilt going into next season.
Yes, absolutely. That needs to happen. And if it doesn't, then look, apathy is already at its strongest at Vanderbilt, where nobody gives a damn. So many Vandy fans that I follow on social media who interact with us have been so checked out of the Derek Mason era at Vanderbilt. It's been done for multiple years. And with Jeremy Pruitt, I think if they continue to go about how they've been handling their business over the last couple of weeks, in the last month or so, Tennessee fans, that is one of the most passionate fan bases in the entire country, will start to be done mentally with their head coach, Jeremy Pruitt. Now, there's always going to be the portion of the fans in Tennessee that say, well, it's 3 years, he's cleaning up a big mess, and he's learning on the job. But there are so many reasons and examples of why Jeremy Pruitt ain't a head coach, like not kicking a field goal to cut it to one score with 5 minutes left at Arkansas, where you actually did have an opportunity for the possessions to go tie the game at the end, but the head coach ruined the opportunity because of bad decisions. That's just one. That's just the most recent game that he's made. Jeremy Pruitt is in over his head as a head coach.
Yeah, and so I don't disagree with your initial statements about them being fired because of what kind of we know. I think the issue is they're going to have to get over the South Carolina hump, right? South Carolina got over the hump and said, look, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about the relationships. It doesn't matter about the money. It matters about winning. And our program is not doing that. We are going to fire Will Muschamp no matter what, whether you're in a pandemic, an epidemic, a no-demic, doesn't matter. We got to do it. My issue with the other two schools that we're talking about in Tennessee and Vanderbilt, I don't think the politics will allow that to happen. And I say this from a logical standpoint. I think in logic, be a realist and be an optimist. That's kind of a life lesson. The realist in me says Vanderbilt's not going to fire Derek Mason, one, because it is a pandemic and they value that, right? They're from the education side. The other thing is they've got a new athletic director, which I actually don't think hurts Derek Mason. I actually think it helps Derek Mason because there was already a prior relationship with their new athletic director, Candace Story-Lee, who was the interim and then now has taken over full-time duties. Mm-hmm. That helps Derek Mason to get another year. I'm not saying it's going to get him 3 or 4 years, but the pandemic helps Derek Mason to justify not firing him. Here's what I think about Tennessee, and this is a hard pill to swallow. This is politics at its finest. It's Philip Fulmer, right? Philip Fulmer, I cannot see firing Jeremy Pruitt. I can't see him doing that this year. It is his guy. Philip Fulmer is an old school soul. He's a VFLer, as you say. And
sure.
He is loyal, probably too loyal to the brand. And if he's too loyal to the brand, it kind of makes me think that he's probably going to be too loyal to his hirings.
All right.
And that starts with Jeremy Pruitt.
Well, and there's one thing that I'll say about Will Muschamp and about your point about Philip Fulmer, but we do have a big question to ask everybody, and that is what SEC coach has the hottest seat now that Will Muschamp has been fired. So we'll get to that and my couple of points on Muschamp and Fulmer as well. But first, let me tell you guys about Renters Warehouse Nashville. The rental market in the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area is booming because of many different reasons. During the pandemic, Renters Warehouse can help you create extra cash flows with your property, and they can do that with an ease for yourself. It's no work. There's no binding contracts. There's no upfront costs. There's no marketing fees at all. It's just one low monthly payment to let Renters Warehouse, the Nashville professional landlords, take care of your property and help make you and your family more money. RentersWarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. If you've lost your job or if you've lost some income, don't panic, sell your house. Hang on to that equity at RentersWarehouse.com.
A to Z Sports, we've got a great question for you. We're going to throw in 2 more coaches, though. Because we've talked about Jeremy Pruitt and we've talked about Derek Mason. But we're going to ask you guys, who has the hottest hot seat of these 4 coaches? Because I think you got to toss 2 more in because of the circumstance.
Yes.
Gus Malzahn sitting right there at Auburn. He's 4-2 this year. He's been on the hot seat before. Remember the fire me game between him and Les Miles with the 1 second left? Well, Gus got away from his the hair on his chin, barely got out, and then went on to save his job for multiple years, and he still sits here, but the expectations for Auburn are very high. And then Ed Orgeron, as you see, you're probably going, huh? Ed Orr? What? No. The reason why he's on this list is because of the rape accusations that were apparently brushed over by the LSU athletic department. That story came out yesterday.
And a lot of them, and it goes deep with a lot of different players when it comes to Title IX accusation and allegations for LSU's football program. So before we dive into that question specifically, my one point on Will Muschamp and Phil Fulmer is Will Muschamp last year was a 4-8 coach. South Carolina was a bad 4-8 team. And so there was that awful year preceding this year's 2-5 start. And so you have that compounding on each other. That's why it was a much easier decision for Will Muschamp to be out at South Carolina right now during the pandemic, was because of 4-8 in 2019 when they had a lot higher expectations. For Philip Fulmer, your point is right on, is he going to be more patient with Jeremy Pruitt? Because Philip Fulmer believes he was fired too soon at Tennessee. And so if he thinks he was fired too soon at Tennessee, then he's not going to fire the guy he hired too soon at Tennessee. But I also think it's a great point to remember Derek Dooley got only 3 years. Derek Dooley proved in those 3 years that he wasn't a good enough coach for Tennessee's level, and they moved on. That was the correct thing. Now, the hiring process that led to Butch Jones was absolutely crazy. Butch Jones was able to do some good things early on, and then he proved. My moment in year 3 when I knew Butch Jones wasn't the guy was the chart game at Florida when he lost that one. And then my moment with Jeremy Pruitt was the not kicking the field goal down 2 possessions to cut it to 1 possession at Arkansas and botching that second half completely on offense and on defense. So I know that Jeremy Pruitt is not going to do anything at Tennessee. So now let's get back to that question, that graphic, Zach, and get everybody's answer on which coach has the hottest seat in the SEC right now that Will Muschamp has been fired between Pruitt, Pruitt, Mason Malzahn, and Ed Orgeron. What are some of the comments saying right now?
Well, a lot of people wanting Jeremy. Some are wanting Jeremy Pruitt gone. Like Vic says, bye Pruitt. Tennessee needs an offensive-minded coach, and Chaney needs to go. But then John Daniel London says Pruitt is only in year 3, still playing with Butch's players. He should at least get one more season to adjust his coaching staff and see what he can do in year 4 and 5. It takes time to build a team and get your type of players in. And that's been the problem with what Tennessee's gone through is they've never really stuck with a head coach for a long period of time because they haven't won and their fan base gets restless. I'll answer this question. And Kevin says, I don't think Coach O is on the hot seat. If you ask me this question the way that we asked it, which is somewhat strategic, but somewhat what it is, which of these SEC coaches has the hottest seat? My answer is Ed Orgeron out of these 4. It is. And it's not Ed Orgeron's doing. It's called peer pressure. It's called cancel culture. It's called your program's screwed up. And it's not about LSU's perception. Now, LSU, the one thing that LSU does have going, they are football heavy, right? It's not like let's just be honest, it's not like Baylor or some of the lower level schools. This is a big time school, but this could turn into a big time scandal. And this is on the very surface of things. We don't know all of the information. We don't know all the things that were done or said or not revealed. We have to find out more information. But I say this because as I go through the 4 coaches to answer this question, Pruitt, we talked about. I think you have loyalty from his AD. Vanderbilt, I don't think cares about football and cares more about the pandemic and is more likely to say it's not fair to fire a coach in a pandemic. Gus Malzahn beat Alabama last year. He's going to get another year. He's 4-2. I don't think he's getting fired. The most logical explanation out of all of these is something out of the hands of the head coach, which is Ed Orgeron and a scandal within a 2020 cancel culture, which drives me up the effing wall. You know that. I hate that. I'm not going to get into this. But sometimes it is warranted. Sometimes it's not. These type of things are outside of the coach's control if they already surface and are exposed.
So MP on Periscope asked that there's a scandal at LSU right now. Not a lot of people are aware of this. It came out yesterday. Report. This is from Alex Scarborough at ESPN and via USA Today, who did the heavy lifting on the report. But LSU ignored several sexual assault complaints against football players, and it really started with a former wide receiver Drake Davis and also former running back Darius Geis. And remember, Darius Geis was cut by the football team in Washington because of more assault accusations with a female in the pros. If Darius Geis had an issue back in college that was ignored, that's the worst case scenario, that you ignore something because the guy's a good SEC running back. And then when he gets to the NFL, he's still doing it. So by ignoring Darius Geis accusations and allegations in 2016, you helped there and you created more victims in the Virginia area where he was beating a woman multiple times and accused of that as well. And that cost him his job in the NFL. But so there is issues. There's a lot of different players on this report and a lot of different instances. And Ed Orgeron yesterday addressed it, and he said all of the right things, right? He said exactly what he was supposed to say, but it's early on in this process. And because sexual assault is very different than what Will Wade is going through at LSU, but with paying players and like misconduct when it comes to recruiting violations, sexual assault way more serious than paying a basketball recruit $100,000 to come play for you. But LSU stood pat and stood strong through Will Wade and somehow is getting away with it. I don't think LSU is going to fire Ed Orgeron because of this yet. I think it's a little early to start thinking about that. That it's more about
I don't disagree with you. I just, out of all the four scenarios we've talked about, money and loyalty to Tennessee, pandemic and education to Vanderbilt, and winning to Gus Malzahn and beating Alabama, he saved his job. I think Gus Malzahn has the safest job out of all of these. And then so now that leaves me with Ed Orgeron, and I'm basing this off of something that we don't know that could happen in the future that was just revealed yesterday. And I do think it helps Ed Orgeron that he just won a national championship for LSU. And he is a true Raging Cajun, right? Like, I'm not talking about Lafayette. I'm talking about Louisiana State University. He is a true purple and gold dude. And so that helps him, but that's not who's going to fire him. Who's going to fire him is everybody else, and the pressure's coming down because of this culture, because we all say no to domestic violence or sexual assault. That is a human premise that we should set a standard. I agree with that, but there's still time that has to be looked into this. I just kind of look at the scenarios, and he kind of unfortunately wins by default in the question we're asking.
Shane's right. LSU needs to reevaluate their whole athletic program. A lot of questionable activity in football and basketball the last 2 to 3 years. Maybe it goes deeper than that. Last 5+ is what's going on. Donald brings up the phrase that becomes a coach killer, and that's lack of institutional control. excuse me, there too. Here, A to Z Sports. Look, Tim says, look at Coach Majors in his first 8 years at Tennessee. Tim, with much respect, Johnny Majors' first 8 years at Tennessee were in the 70s and 80s. The business of college football is so different in 2020 and now, and has been for the last 2 decades, than when it was in Johnny Majors' first 8 years. No longer can you afford to be patient like that with a head coach who's just trying to figure it out. And what did Johnny Majors do before he got to Tennessee? He won a national championship at Pitt as a head coach. Jeremy Pruitt was a part of national championships as an assistant, but he wasn't the head guy. So you're way more patient with a former guy who is an all-time great for your team and who had also won a national title as a head coach than you are a guy who didn't know what cornbread was or didn't know what asparagus was, 15 years ago.
So I'm looking at Johnny Majors' records, and I'll tell you exactly when Johnny Majors would have gotten fired if he was in 2020 at Tennessee. And here's the difference between the 70s and 80s and 2020. He started out 4-7 at Tennessee in 1977, then went 5-5-1. All right, so it's taken a couple years. Then went 7-5. It's a little bit better. Then went 5-6. So 5-6, he would have been on the hot seat, right? After 4 years, that's unacceptable at Tennessee. Then came back and went 8-4. So then he got some grace. He said, all right, 8-4 with a win in the Garden State Bowl, whatever the hell that is. And then in 1982 went 6-5-1. He would have gotten fired after that. At 6-5-1, he wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to do what he did on the following year, which is go 9-3 and win a Citrus Bowl. So to your point, Austin, we just live in a different time frame.
And it's also
now. I can Google whatever the hell I want. In 1977, they didn't know how to spell Google.
And recruiting, Google wasn't even a word. And recruiting in the 80s is so different as well as recruiting now. Recruiting is so much more competitive that Tennessee can live off its brand. And because of it has, at that time, it's more of the haves and the have-nots. And Tennessee was the haves. Now everybody has it. Everybody's got everything. And so you can't have a leg up just because you have great facilities, because every school has great facilities you're competing with for recruits.
So you never answered.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to get there. Jeremy Pruitt, I think, has the hottest seat. Now, that's because the fan base cares the most. They're the most. I think the Vandy is just not going to fire Derek Mason until I actually see it happen. That's
even if he goes defeated.
0-10. I just think Vandy has like the ultimate like excuse in its back pocket of pandemic, new AD, lost revenue.
0-10. I agree with you, but like I think 0-10 gets him. Dude, yes. You can't not fire a guy who just went 0-10.
But you've also got opt-outs, true freshman quarterback. Like the list of excuses to not fire Derek Mason this season is too long for Vanderbilt to avoid. Vandy's going to use everything because they don't fire coaches. They just don't. They don't do it. They allowed Kevin Stallings to get a job at Pitt. I mean, I guess they did fire Bryce Drew, but that was awful.
It took him going over in the SEC.
Yes, which is what, and Kelkins is right. Vandy doesn't care. They should care because Vandy, I think, would have a great opportunity with the right head coach. That's a different show for a different day. I think Tennessee and Jeremy Pruitt has the hottest seat of the four. I think when you talk about ranking, if you're ranking the coaches who should be fired, Derek Mason should have been fired 2 years ago. Jeremy Pruitt's probably second on that should be fired. Then I think Gus Malzahn and Ed Orgeron last, just because Ed Orgeron has the equity of a national title less than 12 months ago.
All right, so let's talk about scenarios real quick to get to that point, Austin. Jeremy Pruitt beats Vanderbilt, but that's the only win that he has. I don't know if they're going to make up the A&M game. So let's say he goes 3-6.
Currently scheduled to be December 12th.
Right. So 3-6 or 3-7. So if he goes 3-7, let's say, do you think he gets fired?
At 3 no, I don't. I think the only way Jeremy Pruitt gets fired is if they lose out. Yeah,
is 2-8,
and that would be an 8-game losing streak right after an 8-game winning streak. And you look at Indiana, who Tennessee beat to end last season, complete opposite, right? Indiana and Tom Allen going way up, Tennessee stinking.
I have to remind Tennessee fans this a lot. Tennessee should not have won that bowl game. Indiana should have won the bowl game. They were the better team. They played better. Tennessee had some bounces. You forget about that. It's like a bowl win is just a bowl win. No. Actually know the game, and I know everybody saw it. It was an unbelievable comeback. But there's no way in hell Tennessee, they were not the better team in that game. They shouldn't have deserved to win that game. They found
a way to win, and that was
it. But you know what? This year they're not finding that way because they're not good.
But again, that was what you thought Jeremy Pruitt was building, is that a team that was resilient and that could find a way to win and string wins together. And they did that for the first, again, like at halftime for the Georgia game, leading at Georgia 2-0, you're ranked 14th, and you're like, holy crap, this team looks pretty good. And then it's just been absolute crap ever since they returned for the opening kickoff of the second half at Georgia. It's been awful. And they did it again and ruined an opportunity at Arkansas when they were up 13-0 and gave up 24 points in the third quarter and botched the fourth quarter with the quarterback situation, with not kicking field goals when you should have, coaching malpractice up and down the field, and not adjusting to the slant route. It's like the same thing. Shi Smith for South Carolina had over 100 yards receiving on September 26th by catching slants. And here we are, November 17th, and Tennessee has not adjusted to the slant. That is coaching. That's not players. That's coaching. You force your players to do something to fix a problem. And Jeremy Pruitt has shown he is not capable of doing that. And he's also incapable of hiring a coach who can develop a quarterback.
So, here's the other, and we'll move on after this, is because it kind of goes into our next conversation. If you're Philip Fulmer, you also have to think, if you fire your head coach, who else is out there, right? Who's the replacement? And what does that look like? And what are you willing to do in a pandemic time that, let's just face it, not a lot of head coaches will get fired after this season. Probably the least amount in the last 10 years because of just what we've talked about.
Yeah.
So is this the great time? Is this the best time to go out on the open market? Now, sometimes you have to do what you have to do, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what you have to weigh. What's the best thing for you and what's the best thing for the program? Is it staying in purgatory for a little bit longer, or is it actually going out on the open market and taking a chance of finding somebody better?
It depends, and it's the guy who's right there in the center of our graphic today. It's, do you want Hugh Freeze? Because this is the year Hugh Freeze should get a job that's not Liberty. South Carolina is open. South Carolina has the first chance to court Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze has proven he can win football games in the SEC. Now, how he got there, a little shady, with a little recruiting allegations, a little thing on the side as well. But Hugh Freeze can coach football. That we know very much. So, would you be comfortable with Hugh Freeze being your SEC head coach? That's where we want to go next. Would you be comfortable with Hugh Freeze being your next SEC coach, head coach? But first, Zach, tell the people about the Tucker Agency.
Yeah, Tucker TN. You can save money right there at tuckertn.com or email them, will@tuckertn.com. Email's independent insurance agency. Look, I know you have car insurance, homeowners insurance, life insurance, renter's insurance if you're a renter. Make that a policy under an umbrella that saves you money. You don't know what you're paying for. It's kind of a random question. It's like, how much do you pay for your insurance? I don't know. That's usually the answer. Well, find out and pay less. It makes so much sense. The smartest and most intelligent email that you will send all day is will@tuckertn.com. Hey, it's your name. Heard about you on A to Z Sports. How do I save money on my insurance? It's that simple. The average customer that sends that email saves 20% on their insurance. It's kind of like, why wouldn't you do this? It's not really, it's kind of an easy thing. will@tuckertn.com. It's Nashville's independent insurance agency. You can do it all over Tennessee. They will help you with your insurance policy.
Real quick, don't forget mybookie.ag, code MyTitans to double your first deposit at mybookie.ag. Take advantage of that. This football season with code MyTitans, would you be comfortable with Hugh Freeze as your SEC head coach? Tim McGee says, heck yeah. Walter Williams, absolutely not. Rob, no. Let's see more comments. Skylar says, absolutely. Dude wins big games. Tighten up. Joey says, Tony Basilio in Knoxville said Hugh Freeze doesn't want South Carolina. Oh, he might not want South Carolina, but he can actually use South Carolina. John Daniel says, I do not want Hugh Freeze. Brings too much baggage and will win, but also lose games to teams he's not supposed to. Zach, you know all about that. He'll beat Alabama, but then he can't beat Arkansas, right? That's some things that Hugh Freeze struggle with. Jason Roach says, yes, sir. Zach Goodman says, yes, the man can win. Kevin says, nah. Louis says, nah. John would be cool with it. Frank says, I think Hugh stays where he's at Liberty. Donald says, I'd be cool with Freeze, and I would cheat my ass off. Orlando says, if you ain't cheating, you ain't winning. So a lot of comments there. Kyle says, I don't care hell the baggage he brings. I ain't no damn airport. Just give me wins.
So here's what I have to say. And I'm just going to throw this out there. And I know they're two different scenarios, but one was the accusations of Greg Schiano that sent a firestorm through the Tennessee fan base because we don't want that character of a guy. Now you're going to go out and get Hugh Freeze that were not accusations. They were proven true of him sleeping with hookers.
Yeah,
hey, let me finish. Let me tell the story. Because I know I went to Ole Miss. I know a lot about Hugh Freeze and what he did. About
skipped
him
over a big part of the Greg Schiano thing.
There were accusations.
About what? You didn't name the accusations.
The accusations of knowledge of the situation with the Joe Paterno.
And Jerry Sandusky that dealt with what? Child molestation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. They were accusations, though. The different, and that's why I said, I prefaced, if you listen to me, I prefaced very different scenarios, but all relate to character. One was proven, right? It was proven and admitted that Hugh Freeze slept with hookers and cheated with his program. Different scenario of Greg Schiano on a heavier accusation, but still an accusation, right? So what's the change?
Desperation. 3 years more of desperate. I mean, literally, that's it. It's 3 years more desperation.
You can admit it. If you can admit it,
And,
that's a good answer.
and again, I did not think Greg Shanky was. I'm sorry, I did not think Greg Schiano was the right fit at Tennessee. I did not want him hired as Tennessee's head coach after Butch Jones.
You and a lot of people.
But I also did not agree with how they drug his name through the mud over accusations and hearsay about his involvement with the Jerry Sandusky situation. That was not right, in my opinion, for how Tennessee fans acted in that situation. But I also didn't want Greg Schiano. Now, Hugh Freeze, I also do not want. Trust is a big thing. And I don't think I can trust Hugh Freeze because I always know there's a level of sleaze that he will never not have. And I think the Hugh Freeze question, it depends on who you are. Can Tennessee deal with another coach who makes them a national punchline? No, they can't. That's the answer. They can't. They can't afford that. Hugh Freeze has a probability of making Tennessee another national punchline. And they've had it with Kiffin leaving for USC. They had it with Derek Dooley and trying to teach his team how to shower properly. They had it with Butch Jones and all of his Butchisms of five-star hearts and all that crap. And now you've got it with Jeremy Pruitt, who can't seem to get much done, and Jarrett Garantano.
National punchline, but would I say there's also a possibility that he makes Tennessee a national contender, right? So there's both sides. You got to look at it from both angles because I don't disagree with you. The punchline could come, but at the same time, the risk and reward is he makes Tennessee what Tennessee fans have always desired and wanted, and that is relevance. It's the same thing Michigan's struggling with. Michigan and Tennessee have a great team name. They don't have a great team.
Brand.
Right?
It's right now it's a brand.
But brands, it's going the wrong direction. The length of time, Tennessee's football brand and Michigan's football brand, it's been long enough where when you say the word Michigan football, I think bad. When you say the word Tennessee football, I think bad.
So because, and here's a person you now love is somebody you hated. Lane Kiffin, right? You were so anti-Lane Kiffin for years on what he was as a head coach in college football. Now he's your guy. And you're seeing the Lane Kiffin experience and how fun it can be. And Lane Kiffin, I think, has matured enough, not a lot.
Yeah,
he's matured enough to start building something to be successful, but also not losing who he is and why he's been successful in the past as a play caller and as a head coach. Like Lane Kiffin really isn't a bad, you look at his records, that was a Raiders problem, not a Lane Kiffin problem. He was also 33 years old as a head coach of an NFL team for the first time. And it was Al Davis's Raiders. Then he gets a Tennessee job, and you talk to Jonathan Crompton, who we have on every Thursday and on Vol game days, who played under Lane Kiffin, loves Lane Kiffin and the energy that Kiffin brought to the program for that one short year, left for his dream job.
There were some things that were suspect at that time going around Tennessee.
Recruiting violations, sure, yes, absolutely.
But that doesn't help your program. It hurts your program.
Sure. And if Lane Kiffin would have stayed at Tennessee, they might have won the East in 3 or 4 years, but they probably would have been vacated. Yes. Absolutely. But he learned there, right? Then he goes to USC, who was under violations and sanctions, and he loses there. But his record wasn't terrible. It just wasn't USC worthy. USC would love that Lane Kiffin record at this point. Then he takes and gets humbled at Alabama. I think it was a great move for his PR. He goes to FAU, wins. Now he's at Ole Miss, scores 63 points or however many points a game that they're putting up, chucking his clipboard in the sky. You love Lane Kiffin now. Can you convince another SEC fan base that Hugh Freeze would be a great idea for their program?
So then thank you for asking, because I've had to diagnose this quite a bit. And look, I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. I had to deal with Greg Schiano even before all that. But this is a struggle. And this, every fan can relate to it. He's never your guy until he's your guy, right? And once he's your guy, he's your guy. Until
I hate that guy unless he's on my team.
Right?
Yes.
It's Marshall Henderson, right? Everybody hates Marshall Henderson. I love Marshall Henderson because he's my guy. And so I have to kind of set aside all of my morals and principles when the guy that I hate is now your guy and I enjoy him. I do love Lane Kiffin because he's making my program that I cheer for a lot better, relevant, entertaining, fun, exciting, wins, all of those things. It's trending up. So I'm not going to be hypocritical here, Austin. I had Hugh Freeze. One of the best experiences at a football game I've ever been a part of was a Hugh Freeze game. It was the Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma State in New Orleans. I was in a box. I was drinking bourbon till I was blackout drunk. It was unbelievable. It was so fun. Thank you, Hugh Freeze, for that.
Yeah.
Swag Kelly. But the fallout for all of that was really hard because you had to go through Matt Luke, which was a struggle. And they had really good players like A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf that are thriving, but we had nothing to show for it. I would be a hypocrite to say, if you're a Tennessee fan, I would want Hugh Freeze. And you know what? Hugh Freeze, you just have to hope and wish that he's learned his lesson, and he's going to Jesus you to death. I mean, he will. And that really irritates me because a man of the cloth, as they say, he talks out both sides of his mouth. And so I don't believe him, right? You saying you're following
he's sending texts from both phones.
Right? And so that is the issue that you have to deal with, but you just hope that he's learned some and matured, right? Because immaturity is the reason why he cheated on his wife, right? A mature man, a humble man doesn't sleep with hookers in Florida. He just doesn't, right? He does the right thing. And so Hugh Freeze, if you're a Tennessee fan, I think that I would want Hugh Freeze because I believe he can win. Just like I believe Lane Kiffin can win.
I do too. And I think that the reason why Gus Malzahn is on this list, Zach, is because I think Auburn would love to have Hugh Freeze. That's Hugh Freeze. I mean, I think if Auburn knew this was the year that Hugh Freeze was going to get a job, Auburn would get rid of Gus Malzahn ASAP.
So is this the year that here's the issue, guys. Who's running the ship? Big Philip Fulmer, moral guy, loyal guy. He's not going to go from Jeremy Pruitt.
But you also have to. You cannot just stay in your comfort zone. And Philip Fulmer
is everything Philip Fulmer stands for, though.
Right. Well, Philip Fulmer's comfort zone is hiring a coordinator who's a salt of the earth, SEC, state of Alabama, high school football coach, just want to coach ball type of guy.
That ain't Hugh.
But I also know that Tennessee's next head coach needs to be an offensive guy. And he needs to be an innovative offensive guy, not because who have we talked about, Zach, in this show? And I think it was Donald or Ethan Ramsey who brought this up early in the show, and I want to remember it for later. Will Muschamp, Derek Mason, Jeremy Pruitt. Defensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. All having success at big-time programs, playing at a high level as a D coordinator, failing as head coaches. Muschamp failed twice as a head coach. Mason's been failing for years, and Jeremy Pruitt is failing in year 3. And so I think you've got to go offense in this day and age in college football. There are so many quarterbacks putting up ridiculous numbers in college football, and Tennessee has thrown 6 touchdowns in 6 games. It's inexcusable.
It comes to Philip Fulmer's moral compass, though. And maybe it helps that Mississippi has gone out and hired Mike Leach, the crazy pirate, and Lane Kiffin, the Twitter guy, right? Like that. I think that may help, right, in the scope of public relations. But Austin, Philip Fulmer is a meat and potatoes guy that sits down at the dinner table and says grace, right? Hugh Freeze is the snake oil salesman that comes in with a a coat and tie talking about Jesus, but he's really dialing up hookers after he walks out your door. He's gonna have to swallow a big amount of pride. I'm talking about Philip Fulmer to go down this avenue. That's where I think that there's a separation. Again, if I was a Tennessee fan, which I'm not, I would want Hugh Freeze and I would support Hugh Freeze because I want to win.
Yeah. Now, Shane says the question is no one is asking is would Hugh Freeze come to Tennessee? Vol fan base, the most impatient fan base on the planet. I don't disagree with the back half of that. But
yes,
Hugh Freeze would want Tennessee. I think so.
The SEC has to want Hugh Freeze.
Right. And Greg Sankey right now butting heads with Hugh Freeze. And that's going to continue to happen. But South Carolina being open at least starts the conversation at some point. Chad Tree says, how about Les Miles? No. That's how I feel about that. A to Z Sports here live on a Tuesday show. I do have another SEC head coaching option. A guy I think should get an opportunity at an SEC school sooner rather than later. And he also has a past that's not that clean. And we'll get to that here in a second. But first, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org. If you have that injury that happens in life, either to you or someone you love, make sure you or them get the best care possible at boneandjointtn.org. They help you out through all steps of the process. The diagnosis, the surgery, if needed, the rehab, all happens in one building at the Bone and Joint Institute right there in Franklin, Tennessee. State-of-the-art facilities with over a dozen doctors who specialize in nearly anything that you could have go wrong. boneandjointtn.org.
So Benjamin on YouTube has a good question. Did Freeze recruit at a big-time level? To answer that question is Freeze bought recruits at a big-time level. So he got them, but he just purchased them, which unfortunately is illegal, and that's why he got fired and had to kind of take his lump somewhere else.
Right. So Benjamin brings up Luke Fickell. Luke Fickell, I think, is a really good coach, but that's not who I'm talking about. And Shane says, please don't say Bobby Petrino. Well, I'm not. I'm not going to say Bobby Petrino. I'm going to go with Steve Sarkisian. Zach, Steve Sarkisian, it feels like it's been a long time, or actually it doesn't feel like it's been a long time since Steve Sarkisian lost his job at USC for drinking problems. Steve Sarkisian had a very, very quick, rapid fall. And I think Steve Sarkisian would be a great decision for an SEC team who's making a change to go offense. And I think there's a big reason why. One, he won at Washington before Chris Peterson took over. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at the comments because I knew they were coming. And look,
he
doesn't have a good reputation.
No, but that reputation is outdated. Hang with me for a second, guys, because Steve Smith says, hell no, not the drunk. Donald, funny comment, but says a false prophet or a drunk. Look, these are funny comments and everything, but Shane said he's definitely a big offensive mind. Ben says, shut your mouth, no Sark on Sark, no other Alabama offense in the spring. So look, Steve Sarkisian created a winning tradition and program at Washington. Chris Peterson took advantage of it. He went 9-4 in his first year at USC in 2014. Then he got fired 5 games into it at USC because of drinking problems. What has Steve Sarkisian done since then? Yeah, there was a lot. It was bad, but that was also 5 years ago. Steve Sarkisian has proven that he's a good offensive coordinator and that he's also a good head coach. And has he fixed his problems? There's one reason why I am in on Steve Sarkisian, Zach, because this June 2020, Steve Sarkisian remarried. L'Oreal Luciana Smith is his second wife. She is a former professional track and field athlete and coach and owner of her own business. Why does that mean something? Is that Steve Sarkisian was unhealthy in his personal life. He got divorced. He got fired. He lost jobs. He was a public shame across the country. But I think marrying a track and field athlete who has maybe the healthiest lifestyle because of what they do, track and field athlete / coach, that makes me feel like Steve Sarkisian is on the right path off the field, which means he can be really good as a head coach.
Look, I don't disagree with what you
The
said. I
logic
mean,
is
I
there.
think people do change people, right? And sometimes good ways, sometimes bad ways. But and Sarkisian, look, we haven't heard anything from him, which is a good thing, right? You don't want to hear him being in the news just pulled over for a DUI or a public drunk or something like that. We haven't heard any of that news. I just think that he's had to really rebuild his reputation, and here's the issue, Austin. He hasn't gone somewhere and run a big time or not run a program, right? The difference between Hugh Freeze and Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian, Hugh Freeze and Lane Kiffin went to programs to be head coaches and had success. Sarkisian has been essentially babysitted, right? He wasn't the head coach. He wasn't the head coach at Alabama when he came in as an interim. He wasn't a head coach when he went to the Falcons, and he's not a head coach now as an offensive coordinator. I think that would be my only thing. Maybe in his life he's changed, but Tennessee or any of the programs that we're really talking about needs a leader, not a coordinator. And I don't think Steve Sarkisian has proven that he is the leader yet.
Zach, if he was able to go 9-4 in his first year at USC while he had a massive drinking problem,
What was that? Huh? That was with other players.
He was able to build something stable.
When somebody does very good in their first year, that tells you that the previous coach recruited but didn't manage very well. I mean, that's what it tells you. We know this. You know the deal.
That previous coach,
right?
That previous coach
we've all experienced it. So that is not something on the resume that touts that he is a good head coach or leader. It tells us that in 1 year, he took somebody else's players and made them perform. It needed better structure.
I think that's worth valuing. I mean, I'm not saying that's everything, but that's worth valuing is that if you can get somebody else's guys to buy into you immediately and you have a massive personal off the field issue, I think that's pretty good. And Steve Sarkisian, like, we're overlooking what he did in Washington. Like, you look at a 34-29 record at Washington, and you're like, that's not that impressive. But that's the Washington Huskies of 2009 to 2013. That's not the Washington Huskies after the fact, because Steve Sarkisian helped create the Washington that Chris Peterson was able to take to the college football playoff. You have to give him credit for that.
And that's all well and good. I don't think Sark. It's not Sark's time yet. That's what I would. My gut tells me this year, this offseason, it's not Sark's time yet to get a head coaching job either. There's other better known commodities out there like Joe Brady or somebody else, right? Like that are on the up and up or on the rise, because those are the guys that get these big SEC jobs because they pay the most money. And it's the hardest job to win because Nick Saban is in the conference.
Yeah, Ethan says, how long are Austin's arm? Because this is a huge reach. I think it's good logic. I think it, like, if he's remarried to a – don't shrug that off, because before the show, you're like, I can get on board with this. It's a good conversation.
No, I'm not shrugging. I confirmed that I agreed with that logic.
Yeah.
But that logic doesn't just relate to a head coach at a big-time school that wins big-time games.
Oh, it's why I would consider Steve Sarkisian. Like, I think Steve Sarkisian is a good football coach. He didn't get fired because of lack of ability. That's what you have to remember. He got fired because his personal life was in shambles and he was abusing alcohol. Right. And so right. It was embarrassing. It was public shame and everything. And now he's married to someone new who has a healthy lifestyle because she's a professional track and field athlete and coach. That's about as healthy as you can get off the field. I think that goes a long way to showing that Steve Sarkisian probably has turned a corner in his personal life that can probably make him a better coach, because he was already a really good coach. And he's just 46 years old, too.
We'll find out this offseason if his names are swirling in the circuits. And what teams are even going to be in that circuit.
Yeah, because let's also just remember this, that neither of us think that Jeremy Pruitt will actually be fired this year. So, unfortunately,
you said unless he loses out and goes 2-8.
I said that's the only way it could be.
That's what you said because I asked you.
But the likeliness, Zach, the odds are still not in favor of him losing his job. 2-8 increases the odds of his losing his job.
Kind of trending that way, though.
Oh, no doubt. But I still think Jeremy Pruitt will get 2021. So now Sark will have another year of.
Benjamin's been on here today. Sark seems like the new head coach of Arizona, right? Like that's kind of that's the job he'll take. I don't think he'll go from Alabama OC to SEC head coach. You just got to have bigger names.
Steve Sarkisian was the head coach at USC.
Was keyword.
Right. So why he is a big name? It's just we're letting his
whole SEC fans, they don't even know that he's the offensive coordinator at Alabama.
That's their fault. That's not my
No,
fault.
it's public perception and recognition.
Okay. All right. A to Z Sports here live on a Tuesday. It is that time, Zach, for trivia. We need to go 8-2 again this week. Right now, we're at 72% as a team. We're 50-19 through 7 weeks. So let's try to go 8-2 together. But first, tell the people about Calvin and Subtle.
Yeah, Calvin and Subtle is where you need to get your hardwood floors. Very simple. 615-448-6414 or online at calvinandsubtle.com. That's 615-448-6414. Get your brand new hardwood floors this holiday season. It is an experience, a very good experience. You call them, you pick out your perfect hardwood floor from their showroom or their sample deck, and then once you have it, 1 to 2 weeks, they order the material and they come out and install. calvinandsubtle.com in Middle Tennessee, from Clarksville to Spring Hill to Gallatin to Nashville to Brentwood. They can improve your home right here in the Middle Tennessee area. calvinandsubtle.com, hardwood and finishings, 615-448-6414.
Trivia Tuesday time here on A to Z Sports. If you have not done this yet, stick around because it is a good time. You are involved in this. This is a team effort, full team effort between me, Zach, and all of you. We've got 10 random sports trivia questions that Zach has on a website. He has not seen the answers, so we go through these one by one and try to go 8-2. That's our goal because we need to stack another 8-2 week on top of the last 2 we've done, because our goal is over 70% throughout the fall football season. And right now we're at 72% through 7 weeks. Zach, let's get it going.
Yeah, so I feel like there's a trend. There's a lot of NBA questions. There are some NFL questions, but it's just a random sports trivia website that I found. And let's start with an easy one because we're going to get this because I already know the answer. Which 1990s NBA great was nicknamed the Admiral?
We've already had this.
We have?
Yes.
Dang. Well, so we're skipped. That's the other thing about this website.
It's just a random 10 questions. Sometimes we've had them, sometimes we haven't.
That's the problem. All right. So here's a hard question, and I don't know if I know this. Who was the cover athlete of the video game NBA Live 1999? NBA Live 99. 99.
Remember, Michael Jordan, not an option.
No, yeah, he was not. Oh, we got a couple of David.
That's because they're following up to the Admiral question. I don't know if there's a bigger delay. Alex says Allen Iverson.
NBA Live 99.
Dom, I was actually going to guess Jason Kidd.
Ooh. I think that's correct.
Because, and Ronnie brings up Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan, too young. Because 99, the video game for 99 was for the 98 season. Because, you know,
he had won the championship.
Like you're playing Madden 21 right now, but it's for the 2020
Who was
season.
Jason Kidd playing for in 1999?
Like the Nets?
Was it the Nets?
Yeah. No Googling. I think it's Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd was a gut. Michael Shaw says Ray Allen.
I know Jason Kidd Nets was on NBA Live.
He was. Tighten up, Ohio. Did you Google? And John Daniel, did you Google?
They Googled.
Because Tighten Up Ohio says, no, I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, he has
He
it.
has the game.
Ooh. Then I trust him. Tighten Up Ohio has watched the show before.
Yes.
Because I recognize the name.
Antoine Walker.
Antoine Walker, he says he has the game, and Ronnie Snead comes in. Kidd was on 2002. That's why I say I think Jason Kidd played for the Phoenix Suns in 1999. I'm actually positive. So it's not Jason Kidd.
So Antoine Walker. Jason Kidd was on the cover of NBA Live.
But he was on the Nets, and it wouldn't have been that. So the answer is Antoine Walker.
Okay. We're 1-0, whether our guy Tighten Up Ohio Googled or not.
I believe him. We have to have some faith, right?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right. So 1-0. Let's get it moving.
Ooh. During what year was have we had this? God, I can never remember.
I don't know.
During what year were male cheerleaders introduced in the NFL?
We have not had this, but male cheerleaders.
During which year was male cheerleaders introduced to the NFL?
I mean, this could be anything because all it takes is one team.
I think this was recent, though.
Because the Titans did it like 2015 or 16 or something like that. Ah, damn it.
I mean, this is tough. Did they do it that recent?
Yeah, John Michael Presley says 2018. 2018 from Kyle.
I want to say that it was that recent. I want to say 2018 sounds right.
All right, and yeah, I think it's in that. All right, let's go 2018.
2018.
That's right.
Yes.
All right, 2-0, 2-0. Okay, sweet.
All right.
Keep it rolling.
We move on. Again, I've got to somewhat sift through these because we've had a lot of them.
Yeah, we've answered 79 questions or 69 questions.
Where did the sport of curling originate?
How is this labeled?
Where did the sport of curling originate? This is labeled as a medium hard question, like a medium question.
The obvious answer is Canada.
But you wouldn't think it would be in Europe?
No. Remember, this is a frozen lake sport. I think Canada is the correct answer. But we got like Scotland and a Greenland and a Norway. I'm with Bobby. This seems like a trap. It seems like they want us to go with Canada. We've got a couple Norway.
That's where I would say like the Netherlands or Norway or maybe Scotland. They're for old sports, you know.
Because Greenland is the icy one.
Canada. Curling is a age-old sport.
Because Greenland is the frozen one.
Sweden, maybe?
Man.
Switzerland? But Scotland's golf.
And rock throwing as
stones.
But seriously, Scotland, they get the stones from a specific island. Scotland?
That makes it's not Canada. I don't think Canada's too new.
Let's go Scotland.
All right, final answer is Scotland. Scotland.
Yes.
Scotland has the oldest curling team. Games were played during winter on frozen ponds.
Well, I knew that. I knew it was a frozen lake pond sport. All right, 3-0. 3-0. We've pulled some out of our ass today. All right, 3-0. Let's get it going.
Yeah. What is the not that one. What Boston Red Sox player has the most career hits?
That is
Ted Williams? Or is it Wade Boggs?
No, it's not Wade Boggs. It's Ted Williams.
Ted Williams.
Yeah.
It has
because he had the opposite
Or
hand.
no, is it Yaz?
No, it's the opposite. It's Ted Williams because his hands were opposite. It's Ted Williams. Or
I don't think it's Mookie.
I think it's Ted Williams. Ted Williams is like top 5. Ted Williams is the answer. That's me. I'm putting that on the line for me. Ted Williams.
Yeah.
No?
Carl Yastrzemski.
God. What?
He played his whole career with the club. Most career hits, 3,419.
Did Ted Williams play somewhere
Your
else?
ass is on the line, Austin, and you got too jumpy.
Yeah, I did.
You didn't. You got to walk through this.
Dang. My bad. 3-1.
And why would we do this? You're the anti-baseball guy. You don't watch baseball.
But Ted Williams is like an that's I felt that was the answer. I'm sorry. I'll take that. Donald says Ted took a break for the war. That cost him this answer. So don't blame me, blame World War II.
All right. Let's see here.
3-1. This is question 5.
This is another baseball question. So
Great.
get your bat ready. Redemption. Which team did the Chicago Cubs play in the 1945 World Series?
Oh, God.
So the Cubs, this had to have been their opportunity to break the streak in which they lost.
A good answer would be the Yankees.
1945.
Yeah, just because the Yankees won a ton of titles.
Yeah, 27.
So that gives us like a 30% chance of getting it right.
Kind of playing the odds. 1945. Louis, it can't be the Cardinals because they're in the different league.
It could be the Dodgers. I think the Yankees is. How is it labeled?
It is labeled easy.
So Yankees.
You got to calm down here, Austin.
I'm very calm.
I don't like how you're jumping to conclusions.
I'm not jumping to conclusion. I'm giving you
a big point last time because you're going
right.
final answer real
okay.
quick.
All right.
Power to the people.
Which would the people say the Detroit Tigers?
Right? And we've got Russ coming in here saying it's the Detroit Tigers.
Are people Googling?
Saying the Tigers. You're too quick to jump. And so I've got to come in here and regulate this. I'm going with the people. I think the Detroit Tigers makes more sense.
Well, it's because Russ Wood Park says Hal Neuheiser was the MVP.
So I'm going against the Yankees. I think it's the Detroit Tigers. Power to the people.
Go Tigers.
The Detroit Tigers is the correct answer.
All right, cool. Congrats, everybody. 4-1. We're doing our job. Me, not so much, but that's okay. We're halfway through it. We're doing what we need to do. We're on pace, trying to go 8-2 this week. 5 more trivia questions on this Tuesday. Real quick, let me tell you about Mandu, the Pulse of Fitness. We're 1 15-minute workout. We've already been doing trivia for 10 minutes, but 1 15-minute workout at Mandu simulates 5+ hours in the weight room. Mandu.com. Your first workout is absolutely free. So make sure you check that out. It's great during the pandemic. It's by appointment only. There's only maximum 1 other person with you. You're in and out in 40 minutes and with a full workout, full body ready to go. I'm still sore from my Sunday workout on this Tuesday. It's great. I've lost a lot of weight, lost the fat, build the muscle because of what Mandu can do. Can do the same for you. Mandu.com. Your first workout is free.
All right, A to Z Sports, it's trivia time. We are 4-1, right?
We are currently 4-1 halfway through, and I think Bobby is right. I'm trying to speed this up because we're taking too long, and I don't want people to Google.
Well, no, I think we've been fair. I think the one that we had in question, Ohio had the game.
What are the odds that a guy watching our show has a random video game from 22 years ago?
Pretty high, honestly. I'd take those at. All right, so let's go to this question. The NBA player who made a cameo appearance in the 2016 comedy movie Office Christmas Party. Now, I never watched that movie, so we need some help on here. Office Christmas Party. I remember when it came out because it was one of those rom-coms, but like my first thought is Kevin Garnett, but Kevin Garnett was in Uncut Gems, which is different. But was this like his follow-up?
So read the question again. Does it say current or former?
Which NBA player made a cameo appearance in the 2016 comedy movie Office Christmas Party? Now, LeBron was in the movie Trainwreck,
Which
but
was exactly that.
it wasn't a terrible movie. It wasn't a great movie. And LeBron actually did pretty good at acting. Now, Space Jam, I think, is going to be an uphill climb because we're going to have too high expectations. So here's really the question. Did anybody see the movie in 2016 Office Christmas Party?
I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be on our Netflix stream coming up here in a month or so.
Jimmy Butler. Is it Jimmy Butler? I think that's right. I think it's Jimmy Butler. And Rob says, I swear I saw it.
All right. So I feel like I'm going to be
Bateman was in it. And that's right. Jason Bateman was in it. I think it is Jimmy Butler.
That's such a weird. But Jimmy Butler was kind of a big deal back in 2016.
Yeah, because he was on the Bulls, right? Like,
was Vince Vaughn also in the movie? That would make sense.
That was four Christmases.
I know.
Which is a good movie.
I enjoy Four Christmases. Office Christmas Party I've not seen, but maybe I will this.
I think we need to go Jimmy Butler.
All right, let's go Jimmy Butler. To
the
get the 5-1.
Jimmy Butler made a cameo appearance as himself. This is a highly entertaining film about an out-of-control corporate Christmas party. I don't know, highly entertaining. That's biased. All right, next question. This is a very hard question.
Ooh.
All right, it has to do with the NFL. Who is the youngest player ever selected in the first round of the NFL draft? Now, this is a good trivia question. Who is the youngest player in the history of the NFL to be selected in the first round of the NFL draft?
So, I think Bobby might be right. At once upon a time, it was Amobi Okoye by the Houston Texans. Once upon a time. Donald is onto something there. But I think
your trivia question.
I think Tremaine Edmonds is the correct answer.
Where did he get drafted? Who's Tremaine Edmonds?
Tremaine Edmonds, the linebacker for the Bills. But Amobi Okoye, yeah, he definitely was. At the time he was drafted, he was. But at this point, that was probably like 2010. Isaiah Wilson is 21. That's why he's getting in all these DUIs. But Amobi Okoye, I think, is the correct. I think Edmonds is the answer though. Because I think it's the most recent.
When was Tremaine Edmonds drafted?
Like 2018 or something like that.
So this, as we know, these trivia questions evolve around 2018.
A lot of people are answering Amobi Okoye.
This I'm going to have to relinquish to you guys. This is not my expertise. I can tell you jersey combinations. Draft is not my guy.
Yeah.
What's your final answer?
Okoye.
Final answer is Amobi Okoye?
Yeah.
The correct answer is Amobi Okoye. He entered college at 16 years old, thus becoming an NFL player with eligibility at 19.
From?
I had no idea.
Louisville. That's where the original from started because Tom Jackson went to Louisville. So there you go. Okay. Whew, that was tough. So we're 6-1. All right. We got to get 2 of these last 3, and we're in good shape.
This is a recent one, but a hard one because I don't know it. In lieu of the Masters tournament this past weekend, which golfer was the runner-up to Patrick Reed in the 2018 Masters tournament? Was this Tiger? Was he the runner-up to Patrick Reed that fell short? He won it in 2019. Who was the runner-up to Patrick Reed in the 2018 Masters tournament?
Where's our golf people at?
Dustin Johnson.
The 2018 was that 2017, 2018 was the year that Dustin Johnson was all over it. And like every major, but kept blowing it. We've got some Spieth answers. Ricky Fowler would be a good answer too, because Ricky Fowler still searching. I don't think it's Tiger. We're getting some Ricky Fowlers are starting to.
So it does say Tiger sounds like an easy answer. This is an easy question.
Crompton says trust him. He's a golf guy. Then we go with Ricky Fowler. I feel like it's Ricky Fowler because I want to say 2018 Masters. It was a close one, and Patrick Reed ended up winning. Ricky Fowler was second and very, very upset.
All right. Our final answer is Ricky Fowler, and the correct answer is Ricky Fowler. Lost to Patrick Reed by only 1 stroke.
Man, okay, we're 7-1. We have a big time opportunity that I would be the only person to mess this up today.
All right. Let's see. Which NBA personality actually owns the term three-peat, referring to a team winning 3 consecutive championships?
Yeah, you know this, right?
I do.
Yeah. The answer?
Pat Riley.
Pat Riley. 8-1, baby. Pat Riley. Easy. I like that.
The correct answer is Pat Riley in 1988. And we knew this based on the documentaries that we've seen recently.
Yes. All right. Can we get to 9-1? Am I going to be the only thing that kept us all, the whole team, from a 10-0 week? No tennis questions yet. It's a good thing.
I mean, we can change that.
No. I mean, I just whatever you had up next.
Yeah. Well, that is the hard part. Is okay. Here it is. This is a very hard question. I mean, we have to. This is what it is. Within the first 70 years of NBA history, which is 1947 to 2017, who was the only player to record a 30-assist game? So I'll repeat it, and this is labeled as very hard. Within the first 70 years of NBA history, who was the only player to record a 30-assist game?
I don't know why it made me laugh, but Donald saying Scott
Skiles. Well, Scott Skiles, I believe, is the correct answer.
Well, we got Donald and Ronnie Quick coming in with Scotty Skiles.
And because he was the assist leader for years, played for the Orlando Magic.
And what years was he playing?
He played in the 90s. So like the early 90s. I want to say
was he with like Shaq and Penny?
No. Like he was right before that.
Donald says, "Don't overthink it. It's Scott Skiles."
That's what I would have guessed.
30 assists.
This is my alley. I don't know NBA draft or in NFL draft. I do know.
Do I redeem myself with Immobile Koi from the?
No.
Yes.
No, you jumped. You're dead, right? You jumped off the cliff too early. Everybody was like, "No, wait," and you figured out that there was rock at the bottom.
Yeah, but he absolutely played with Shaq and Penny. If he played in the 90s with Orlando, then he played with Shaq and Penny for a little bit.
Yeah, but for a short time.
But that would be that's a great opportunity to get 30 assists of playing with Shaq. Half of them can be alley-oop dunks.
Well, and the other Brent goes with John Stockton. But this is about one game.
Scott Skiles. Just go with Scott Skiles because Ben and Brent say Stockton, but I think let's just go with Skiles.
Scott Skiles against the Denver Nuggets on December 30th, 1990.
So all right. So let's look at
Shaq.
Yeah. Scott Skiles.
That was that Magic team I followed.
If you type in Scott Skiles, the first thing that pops up is 30 assists.
Yeah, that was great. Donald, hey, power right there, baby.
I want to see a box score.
against the Denver Nuggets
Got
on
it.
December 30th, 1990.
I got it. Got the box score. Who led? Oh man, that would have been a really good conversation, but it's not correct. The Orlando Magic. Who led the Orlando Magic in points that day? Jerry Reynolds off the bench. The crazy thing is Scott Skiles also had 22 points.
How many rebounds did he have?
Total rebounds 6.
That's a good night.
Played 44 minutes, and they won 155 to 116.
There you go. 9-1, babe. That's our best score, right?
That is our best score.
We're getting stronger.
Abdul Rauf pitched in 21 points for the Nuggets that game.
Ooh, yeah.
Two awful teams. That win got the Orlando Magic to 7-23, and the loss got the Nuggets to 6-23.
Rough game, but historic.
22 points and 30 assists.
So what percentage are we? Can you do quick math for us?
Oh, I was going to do that. So
we go 9-1. We have an opportunity to get to maybe 75%.
All right.
We exceeded. We were talking to try to get 70% after 100 questions.
What? Hold on. Was that our
90%? 9 out of 10 is 90%.
Yeah, I think we're past that ability. We've missed 19 already questions. So we are now we've missed 20 questions. So we are.
Is that our 100th question?
No, we have answered 79 questions. We are 59-20.
Okay, what's that percent?
So that is 74.6%.
74.6. So we've got a couple more rounds before we get to 100 questions. We're trying to get over 75. I mean, with a 100% score, we could get close to 80. No,
yeah.
We'd have to win out. Yeah.
We have to win out. We have to go 10-0 and 10-0 to get to 80%.
Consider it a challenge. No room for error. Next Tuesday.
Well, we just got to go 10-0 each week.
I'm glad these things are really short and sweet, too.
Yeah, I know, right? It only took us 27 minutes to do this trivia. That 25. We've been talking for a couple minutes after. So 20-ish minutes. All right, guys. Thanks for participating. Great Tuesday show. We will see you tomorrow morning. Don't forget the A to Z Sports Podcast Network. Great content throughout the week. Also, Buck Rising back with A to Z Sports Primetime. It's almost 10 o'clock. We've got so many things to do today because trivia took 30 minutes. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. See ya.
Adios.